You've probably already missed countless opportunities with amazing women simply because you didn't notice the signals they were giving you. Marcus Aurelius wrote 2,000 years ago that we observe everything around us except what truly matters. And this has never been more true than in today's relationships. Stoic philosophy teaches us the art of conscious observation. And when you apply these ancient principles to the 5 feminine gestures I'm about to reveal, your love life will never be the same again. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your like and comment what part of the world you're watching from, because now I'm going to tell you everything. They say that when a woman is truly crazy about a man, she sends signals as clear as daylight, yet most men remain completely oblivious to them. Today we're going to explore the hidden language of feminine attraction through the lens of Stoic wisdom. Because understanding these signs isn't just about romance, it's about developing the keen awareness and emotional intelligence that the ancient philosophers prized above all else. Picture this scenario. You're having coffee with a female colleague, and she seems unusually engaged in the conversation. She's leaning in when you speak, her eyes light up when you enter the room, and she finds excuses to extend your interactions. Yet you walk away thinking it was just a pleasant professional exchange. Sound familiar? This blindness to feminine interest isn't a character flaw, it's a common human condition that even the wisest among us can fall prey to. The Stoics understood that true wisdom begins with honest self-examination and the cultivation of awareness. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the importance of observing not just our own thoughts and actions, but the subtle currents of human behavior around us. He believed that those who could read the unspoken communications of others possessed a valuable form of practical intelligence. Let's start with the first sign that a woman is crazy about you. And it's so subtle that most men completely miss it. She remembers everything you say, not just the big things, the small details that you might have mentioned in passing weeks ago. When a woman is genuinely interested in a man, her mind becomes a careful curator of his words. She'll bring up that story you told about your childhood pet, reference a book you mentioned wanting to read, or ask about that project you mentioned being stressed about. This isn't casual politeness or good memory. This is the behavior of someone who finds you fascinating enough to file away every detail of your existence. Think about it from a Stoic perspective. We naturally pay attention to what we value. Marcus Aurelius observed that we invest our mental energy in what matters to us most. When a woman consistently remembers your stories, your preferences, your concerns, and your dreams, she's revealing where her mental energy flows. The second sign is equally powerful, yet often misinterpreted. She creates opportunities for physical proximity. This isn't about obvious touching or overt physical advances. It's far more nuanced than that. She'll choose the seat next to you in meetings when other options are available. She'll walk closer to you than necessary when you're moving through spaces together. She'll linger in conversations, creating reasons to stay in your physical presence just a bit longer than social norms would typically dictate. The Stoics understood that human beings are fundamentally social creatures who express their intentions through both words and actions. Epictetus taught that we should pay attention not just to what people say, but to what they do, because actions reveal true intentions more clearly than words ever can. When a woman consistently seeks your physical proximity, she's communicating something profound about her level of comfort and attraction. But here's where most men go astray. They interpret this behavior as mere friendliness or coincidence. They think she just happens to sit near them, just happens to walk closely, just happens to find reasons to be around. The Stoic approach would be to observe patterns rather than isolated incidents. One instance might be coincidence, but consistent behavior reveals intention. The third sign involves her communication patterns, and it's perhaps the most overlooked of all. She matches your communication style and energy level. This is a phenomenon that psychologists call mirroring, but it goes deeper than simple mimicry. When a woman is crazy about you, she unconsciously adapts her communication to create harmony with yours. If you're naturally quiet and contemplative, she'll become more thoughtful in her responses. If you're energetic and animated, she'll match that enthusiasm. If you communicate through humor, she'll develop an appreciation for your type of comedy that she might not show with others. This isn't calculated manipulation. It's the natural human tendency to create connection with someone who captivates us. Seneca wrote about the importance of harmony in relationships, noting that true connection occurs when individuals find natural synchronicity. When a woman begins to mirror your communication style, she's unconsciously trying to create the very harmony that Seneca described as essential for meaningful human connection. The fourth sign manifests in her behavior during group settings, and it's here that her true feelings become most apparent to the observant eye. When you're in a group, she consistently seeks your opinion first, defers to your judgment, and seems more interested in your reactions than those of others present. She'll glance at you when something amusing happens, as if your response is the one that matters most to her. This behavior reveals what the Stoics called natural hierarchy of value. We all have people whose opinions matter more to us than others, whose approval we seek, whose reactions we monitor. When a woman consistently prioritizes your perspective in group settings, she's revealing that you hold a special position in her internal hierarchy of important people. Most men miss this because they're focused on the group dynamic as a whole, rather than observing the subtle individual patterns within it. They notice that she's engaged and sociable, but they fail to recognize that her engagement is specifically oriented toward them. The fifth and perhaps most telling sign is how she behaves when other women show interest in you. This is where her feelings become impossible to hide. Yet it's also where men are most likely to misread the situation. When another woman flirts with you or shows obvious interest, she doesn't become overtly jealous or possessive. Instead, she becomes more attentive to you, more engaging in her conversation, more present in her body language. She's not competing directly with the other woman. She's competing for your attention by becoming the most compelling version of herself. This is sophisticated emotional intelligence in action. Rather than showing insecurity or aggression, she elevates her own presence to ensure she remains the most interesting person in your orbit. The Stoics would appreciate this approach because it focuses on what she can control, her own behavior and attractiveness, rather than trying to control external factors like other women's interest in you. It demonstrates the kind of emotional maturity that comes from understanding the fundamental Stoic principle of focusing energy only on what lies within our sphere of influence. Here's why men miss these signs so consistently. First, they're often looking for more obvious indicators of interest, the kind of dramatic romantic gestures portrayed in movies and literature. They expect clear verbal declarations or unmistakable physical advances. But real attraction between mature adults is often far more subtle and sophisticated than popular culture suggests. Second, many men have been conditioned to doubt their own perceptions when it comes to feminine interest. They've been taught to be cautious about misreading signals, to avoid making assumptions, to wait for absolutely clear indicators before acknowledging potential romantic interest. This caution, while well-intentioned, can create a kind of perceptual blindness that prevents them from recognizing even obvious signs of attraction. Third, men and women often express and recognize interest in different ways. Men might show interest through direct action, asking someone out, making clear statements about their feelings, or engaging in obvious pursuit behaviors. Women, particularly in professional or social contexts, often express interest through the kind of subtle cues we've been discussing. When men look for interest expressed in their own language, they miss interest expressed in feminine language. The Stoic approach to this challenge would be to develop what Marcus Aurelius called disciplined perception. This means training yourself to observe human behavior with clarity and objectivity, without the filter of your own expectations or cultural conditioning. It means paying attention to patterns rather than hoping for dramatic gestures. But perhaps most importantly, it means developing the kind of self-awareness that allows you to recognize when someone finds you genuinely interesting and valuable. Many men miss these signs not because the signs aren't clear enough, but because they don't believe they're worthy of such attention. This lack of self-worth creates a perceptual filter that blocks out positive signals from others. The Stoics understood that true strength comes from accurate self-assessment, neither inflated ego nor excessive self-doubt, but clear recognition of one's own worth and capabilities. When you develop this kind of balanced self-awareness, you become much better at recognizing when others see value in you as well. Understanding these signs isn't about manipulation or strategy. It's about developing the awareness and wisdom to recognize genuine human connection when it appears in your life. The Stoics valued truth above all else, and the truth is that meaningful relationships often begin with subtle signals that require wisdom and attention to perceive. In our next section, we'll explore how to respond to these signs with the kind of dignity and wisdom that the ancient philosophers would admire, because recognizing interest is only the first step in building something meaningful and lasting. When you begin to recognize these subtle signals, the natural question becomes, how should a man of character respond? The Stoics believed that wisdom without right action is merely intellectual exercise, and nowhere is this more true than in matters of human connection. The way you respond to a woman's interest reveals not just your romantic intelligence, but your fundamental character and emotional maturity. Consider the story of Marcus Aurelius himself, who, despite being the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, approached his relationship with his wife Faustina with remarkable humility and attentiveness. His personal writings reveal a man who understood that true strength in relationships comes not from dominance or indifference, but from the kind of present awareness that honors another person's feelings while maintaining your own dignity and authenticity. The first principle of responding wisely is what Seneca called reciprocal attention. When a woman shows interest through remembering your words, the appropriate response isn't to test her memory or to become careless with your communication. Instead, it's to begin paying similar attention to her words and experiences. This doesn't mean keeping score or creating artificial equality, but rather recognizing that genuine interest deserves genuine interest in return. If she remembers that you mentioned stress about a work project and later asks how it went, the wise response includes two elements. First, appreciation for her attention and care. You might say something like, "I'm touched that you remembered I was worried about that." Second, reciprocal curiosity about her own experiences. How has your week been treating you? This creates what the Stoics called virtuous cycles, positive patterns that build upon themselves naturally. Most men make one of two errors here. They either take her attention for granted, assuming it's simply how she treats everyone, or they become overly analytical about it, wondering why she remembered and what it might mean. Both responses miss the point entirely. The Stoic approach is to receive her attention with gratitude and return it with genuine interest in her as a complete person. When she creates opportunities for physical proximity, your response should demonstrate what Epictetus called appropriate boundaries with warmth. This means neither recoiling from her presence nor interpreting every instance of closeness as an invitation for immediate escalation. Instead, you allow the natural rhythm of increasing comfort and familiarity to develop organically. If she chooses to sit near you, you don't need to comment on it or create awkward awareness of the choice. Simply be present in the moment. Engage fully in whatever conversation or activity is happening, and allow yourself to enjoy the warmth of human connection without immediately trying to define or advance it. The Stoics understood that the best human connections develop like fine wine, through patience and natural processes rather than forced acceleration. This doesn't mean being passive or oblivious. It means being confidently present. Make appropriate eye contact, engage in the conversation with genuine interest, and allow your own natural warmth to show. If the setting is appropriate, you might acknowledge her presence with subtle appreciation. "I'm glad you're here" can be a powerful statement that honors her choice to be near you without making it seem calculated or strategic. The key insight here is that when someone chooses to be in your physical proximity, they're offering you a gift of trust and comfort. The appropriate response is to be worthy of that gift through your own presence and attention, not to immediately leverage it for romantic advancement. When she begins to mirror your communication style, this presents a unique opportunity for what Marcus Aurelius called mutual elevation. Rather than simply enjoying the harmony she's creating, you can begin to bring out the best in both of you through consciously excellent communication. If she's matching your thoughtful, reflective communication style, lean into deeper, more meaningful conversations. Ask questions that reveal character and values. Share thoughts and experiences that show your own depth and authenticity. If she's matching your humor and energy, engage in the kind of playful banter that brings joy to both of you, but always with underlying respect and kindness. The crucial element here is authenticity. Don't change your communication style to test her mirroring, and don't become self-conscious about the dynamic you've discovered. Instead, simply commit to being the most genuine, engaging version of yourself in her presence. This allows her mirroring to bring out the best in both of you, rather than creating an artificial dynamic. Many men, when they recognize this mirroring behavior, make the mistake of either taking advantage of it or becoming uncomfortable with it. Taking advantage might look like deliberately adopting communication styles you know she'll mirror, essentially manipulating the dynamic for your own amusement. Becoming uncomfortable might mean pulling back from natural communication because you're now hyper-aware of her responses. The Stoic response is neither manipulation nor withdrawal, but rather a commitment to authentic excellence in communication. Be genuinely yourself, but be the best version of yourself. This honors both her interest and your own integrity. In group settings, when she consistently seeks your opinion and prioritizes your reactions, the wise response involves what Seneca called gracious leadership. This doesn't mean dominating the conversation or assuming you're the most important person present. It means recognizing that she's offering you a form of social trust and responding with the kind of thoughtful engagement that justifies her confidence. When she looks to you first for your opinion, offer thoughts that are genuinely helpful to the group dynamic, not just impressive to her. When she seems to value your reactions to group events, let your responses be authentic and constructive rather than performed for her benefit. This demonstrates the kind of character that makes her interest in your perspective wise rather than merely romantic. The deeper principle here is that when someone elevates your voice in a group setting, the appropriate response is to use that elevation in service of the group's well-being, not just your own ego or romantic prospects. This is exactly the kind of leadership philosophy that the Stoic emperors practiced, using personal influence for collective benefit rather than selfish advantage. At the same time, you can acknowledge her confidence in you through small gestures of inclusion. When you're sharing your perspective, you might occasionally make eye contact with her, or after offering your thoughts, you might ask, "What's your take on this?" This shows that while you appreciate her regard, you also value her own insights and perspectives. When other women show interest in you and she responds by elevating her own presence and engagement, this situation requires perhaps the most delicate wisdom of all. Your response here will reveal more about your character than almost any other scenario, because it touches on fundamental questions of loyalty, integrity, and emotional intelligence. The wise response has several components. First, recognition without exploitation. Acknowledge to yourself that her increased attention in these moments reveals her feelings, but don't use this knowledge to manipulate or test her emotions. Don't flirt with other women just to see how she responds, and don't ignore her escalated engagement as if it means nothing. Second, consistent authenticity. Your behavior shouldn't dramatically change based on who's present or who's showing interest. Be the same fundamentally decent, engaging person, regardless of the social dynamics swirling around you. This demonstrates the kind of character consistency that the Stoics valued above all else. Third, subtle acknowledgement of her elevated presence. When she becomes more engaging in response to other women's interest, meet her elevated energy with your own increased attention and engagement. Not in a way that's obvious to others or that makes her feel like she's competing, but in a way that shows you notice and appreciate when she brings her best self to interactions with you. This might look like giving her slightly more focused attention during these moments, asking more thoughtful questions, or showing more genuine interest in her perspectives. The goal isn't to reward competitive behavior, but to respond positively to her choosing to show you her most compelling self. The crucial element throughout all of these responses is what Marcus Aurelius called mindful intentionality. Every response should be guided by your genuine feelings and authentic character, not by romantic strategy or emotional manipulation. The Stoics believed that right action naturally produces right results, and nowhere is this more true than in human relationships. If you find yourself genuinely interested in her as well, let your responses flow from that authentic interest. If you're not sure about your own feelings yet, let your responses flow from basic human decency and appreciation for her as a person. If you realize you're not romantically interested, let your responses be honest and kind, rather than misleading or exploitative. The ancient philosophers understood that the quality of our relationships reflects the quality of our character. When someone shows genuine interest in us, we have an opportunity to demonstrate wisdom, integrity, and emotional maturity through our responses. Whether that interest eventually develops into romance, friendship, or simply positive acquaintance depends on many factors beyond our control, but the character we show in our responses is entirely within our power to determine. This is why the Stoic approach to romantic interest focuses not on techniques or strategies, but on the cultivation of the kind of character that naturally attracts good people and naturally responds to their interest with wisdom and authenticity. When you develop this kind of character, you don't need to worry about reading signals perfectly or crafting ideal responses. You simply need to be genuinely yourself at your best and let natural human connection develop as it will. In our next section, we'll explore the deeper philosophical principles that govern lasting attraction and meaningful relationships, because understanding interest is only the beginning of building something truly worthwhile. The foundation of lasting attraction goes far deeper than recognizing signals or crafting appropriate responses. It rests on what the Stoics considered the most fundamental human virtues: authenticity, emotional strength, and the kind of inner stability that remains unshaken by external circumstances. These qualities don't just make you more attractive to others. They make you the kind of person worthy of genuine love and respect. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the magnetic power of authentic character. In his Meditations, he observed that people are naturally drawn to those who possess what he called inner sovereignty, the ability to remain true to one's principles and values regardless of social pressure or emotional turbulence. This quality is perhaps more attractive to mature women than any external accomplishment or superficial charm, because it promises the kind of stability and reliability that makes deep partnership possible. Consider how this applies to the woman who's been showing interest in you. Her attraction likely isn't based solely on your appearance, your job, or your social status, though these factors might have initially caught her attention. Her deeper interest, the kind that manifests in remembering your words, seeking your proximity, and elevating her presence around you, stems from something she senses about your character and potential. The Stoic concept of preferred indifference is crucial here. The ancient philosophers categorized external things like wealth, status, and even physical attractiveness as preferred indifference, things that might be nice to have but aren't essential for human flourishing or genuine happiness. What truly matters, they argued, are the virtues that come from within and can't be taken away by external circumstances. This understanding transforms how you approach not just this potential relationship, but all of your human connections. Instead of trying to impress through external achievements or manufactured personality traits, you focus on developing the internal qualities that create lasting attraction: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom in relationships means understanding both yourself and others with clarity and compassion. It means recognizing your own patterns, triggers, and areas for growth without harsh self-judgment. It means observing others' behavior, including hers, with the kind of thoughtful attention that seeks understanding rather than validation or control. When she remembers details about your life, wisdom recognizes this as a sign of genuine care and responds with appropriate gratitude and reciprocal attention. When she creates opportunities for closeness, wisdom neither takes this for granted nor overinterprets it, but simply appreciates the gift of human connection while remaining grounded in reality about what it means and where it might lead. Courage in relationships isn't about grand romantic gestures or dramatic declarations of love. It's about the quiet bravery of showing up authentically, even when that feels vulnerable. It's the courage to be genuinely interested in another person without guarantees about how that interest will be received. It's the strength to maintain your own boundaries and standards while remaining open to connection. This kind of courage is deeply attractive because it suggests emotional reliability. When someone demonstrates the ability to be vulnerable without being needy, open without being desperate, and interested without being possessive, they signal the kind of emotional maturity that makes healthy relationships possible. Justice in relationships means treating others with fairness, respect, and consideration, regardless of your own romantic interests or objectives. It means honoring her intelligence by being honest rather than manipulative. It means respecting her autonomy by allowing her to make her own choices about the relationship without pressure or coercion. This might seem like basic decency, and it is, but it's remarkable how many people abandon these principles when romantic interest is involved. They become strategic rather than honest, manipulative rather than authentic, possessive rather than respectful. The man who maintains justice in his romantic interactions stands out precisely because this behavior is rarer than it should be. Temperance in relationships involves emotional regulation and balanced responses. It means neither becoming overly excited by positive signals nor devastated by ambiguous ones. It means maintaining your own life, interests, and relationships, while allowing space for new connection to develop naturally. When she shows increased interest in response to other women's attention, temperance keeps you from either exploiting this dynamic or becoming uncomfortable with it. You simply continue being your authentic self, while appreciating her elevated engagement for what it is, a sign that she values your attention enough to compete for it in her own dignified way. These virtues create what psychologists now call secure attachment, the ability to form close relationships while maintaining your own sense of self and emotional stability. This is extraordinarily attractive to emotionally mature women because it promises the possibility of deep connection without the drama and instability that often accompany romantic relationships. But here's where many men stumble. They understand these principles intellectually, but struggle to embody them consistently, especially when emotions are involved. The gap between understanding virtue and living virtuously becomes most apparent in romantic situations, where ego, insecurity, and desire can override our better judgment. The Stoic solution to this challenge is what Epictetus called daily practice, the consistent cultivation of virtuous responses through conscious choice and regular reflection. This means examining your motivations and responses in real time, not just after the fact when it's too late to change course. When you notice yourself becoming overly focused on interpreting her signals, practice the discipline of returning attention to your own behavior and choices. When you catch yourself strategizing about how to respond to her interest, redirect that energy towards simply being the most authentic version of yourself. When you feel tempted to test her feelings or manipulate situations to gauge her interest, choose instead to trust the natural development of genuine connection. This kind of self-discipline isn't about suppressing your feelings or becoming emotionally distant. It's about channeling your emotional energy in directions that serve both your own growth and the potential relationship. Instead of obsessing over what her behavior means, focus on becoming the kind of person who deserves whatever interest she might have. The practical application of these principles creates what we might call attractive presence, the quality of being fully engaged in your own life while remaining genuinely open to others. This is the opposite of both desperate pursuit and calculated indifference. It's the middle path of authentic engagement that the Stoics valued so highly. When you possess this kind of presence, you naturally respond to her interest with the right balance of appreciation and autonomy. You're grateful for her attention without being dependent on it. You're interested in her without being obsessed. You're available for connection without being desperate for it. This balanced approach serves everyone involved. She gets to interact with someone who has genuine interest in her as a person, rather than as a romantic objective. You get to explore a potential connection from a position of strength and authenticity rather than neediness or strategy. And if the relationship develops, it develops on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine attraction rather than manipulation or desperation. The Stoics also understood that attraction isn't something you create through technique or strategy, but something you reveal through character. The qualities that make you genuinely attractive, wisdom, courage, integrity, emotional stability, authentic interest in others, are the same qualities that make you a better human being overall. This means that the work of becoming more attractive is identical to the work of becoming more virtuous. You don't need separate strategies for self-improvement and romantic success because they're fundamentally the same project. The man who commits to developing genuine wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance will naturally become more attractive to the kind of women worth being with. This perspective also helps explain why some men seem effortlessly attractive despite not being the most conventionally handsome, wealthy, or successful men in the room. They possess the inner qualities that create lasting attraction: self-possession, genuine interest in others, emotional stability, and authentic confidence that comes from knowing their own worth. The woman who has been showing interest in you has likely sensed some of these qualities in you already. Her attention to your words suggests she finds your thoughts and perspectives valuable. Her desire for physical proximity suggests she feels safe and comfortable in your presence. Her mirroring of your communication style suggests she finds harmony with you natural and appealing. These responses don't happen randomly or by accident. They occur when someone encounters another person who possesses the kind of character qualities that make meaningful connection possible. The question isn't whether you can maintain her interest through clever responses or strategic behavior, but whether you can continue developing the authentic qualities that attracted her attention in the first place. This understanding transforms the entire dynamic from one of performance and strategy to one of genuine development and authentic connection. Instead of worrying about whether you're responding correctly to her signals, you focus on becoming the kind of person whose natural responses arise from wisdom and virtue. Instead of trying to manage her interest, you focus on being worthy of whatever interest she might have. The beauty of this approach is that it serves you regardless of what happens with this particular woman or any specific romantic situation. The qualities that make you genuinely attractive to one mature, emotionally healthy woman will make you attractive to others as well. The character development that serves romantic relationships also serves every other area of your life. In our next section, we'll explore the subtle art of creating the kind of emotional safety that allows deep attraction to flourish naturally. Creating emotional safety represents perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of human attraction. Yet it's something that happens naturally when you embody the virtues we've been discussing. The Stoics understood that true strength isn't about dominance or intimidation, but about creating an environment where others can be their authentic selves without fear of judgment, manipulation, or harm. This quality of emotional safety becomes the fertile ground in which deep attraction can take root and flourish. Think about the woman who has been showing interest in you. Her willingness to remember your words, seek your proximity, and elevate her presence around you suggests that she already feels a degree of safety in your presence. But understanding how to nurture and deepen this safety requires wisdom about the subtle dynamics of human trust and emotional vulnerability. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the responsibility that comes with others' trust, noting that when someone feels safe enough to be genuine in our presence, we become stewards of something precious and fragile. This stewardship isn't about protecting others from all discomfort or challenge, but about ensuring that any vulnerability they show is met with respect rather than exploitation. The first element of emotional safety is what Seneca called predictable integrity, the quality of being consistently trustworthy in both major and minor interactions. This means that your words align with your actions, your behavior remains stable across different contexts, and your responses to others' emotions are reliable and appropriate. When she shares something personal with you, predictable integrity means responding with appropriate seriousness and care. When she shows vulnerability, it means meeting that vulnerability with respect rather than dismissal or immediate attempts to fix or change her experience. When she tests the waters of deeper conversation, it means engaging genuinely rather than deflecting with humor or shifting to safer topics. This doesn't mean being serious all the time or walking on eggshells around her emotions. It means being someone whose responses she can predict will be fundamentally decent and respectful, even when you disagree with her perspectives or don't share her feelings about particular issues. Many men underestimate the importance of this predictability. They think that being mysterious or unpredictable makes them more attractive, but the opposite is true for mature women seeking meaningful connection. Mystery might create initial intrigue, but safety creates the foundation for lasting attraction and deep intimacy. The second element involves what Epictetus called emotional regulation in service of others. This means managing your own emotional responses in ways that create space for others to process their feelings without taking on the additional burden of managing yours as well. When she becomes more engaging in response to other women's interest, emotional regulation means neither becoming possessive nor pretending not to notice. Instead, you maintain your own emotional equilibrium while acknowledging her elevated presence with appropriate appreciation. You don't punish her for feeling competitive, nor do you reward the behavior in ways that encourage unnecessary drama. This kind of emotional regulation is deeply attractive because it signals that you can handle the complexities of real relationships without becoming overwhelmed or reactive. It suggests that she can share her full range of human emotions with you without worrying that you'll fall apart, become angry, or make her feelings about yourself. Consider how this applies to everyday interactions. If she mentions feeling stressed about something at work, emotional regulation means being present with her stress without immediately trying to solve it, minimize it, or relate it back to your own experiences. It means offering the kind of supportive presence that allows her to process her feelings while knowing you're there as a stable, caring witness. The third element of emotional safety involves what the Stoics called principled boundaries. The ability to maintain your own standards and limits while doing so with kindness rather than harshness. This is crucial because emotional safety doesn't mean accepting inappropriate behavior or sacrificing your own well-being for someone else's comfort. If her interest in you begins to manifest in ways that don't align with your values or comfort level, principled boundaries mean addressing this directly and kindly rather than either accommodating behavior that doesn't work for you or becoming cold and rejecting. This might look like saying something like, "I really appreciate your interest and I enjoy spending time with you, but I'm not comfortable with this particular dynamic." The key insight here is that boundaries, when implemented with genuine care and respect, actually increase rather than decrease emotional safety. They signal that you have enough self-respect to maintain your own integrity, which paradoxically makes others feel safer because they know you won't sacrifice important principles for the sake of temporary harmony. Women are particularly sensitive to men's ability to maintain boundaries while remaining kind, because they've often experienced either men who have no boundaries at all and become doormats, or men whose boundaries come with anger, punishment, or emotional withdrawal. The man who can say no while remaining genuinely caring demonstrates the kind of strength that makes real partnership possible. The fourth element involves what Marcus Aurelius called curious compassion, the quality of being genuinely interested in understanding others' perspectives and experiences without immediately judging them or trying to change them. This creates profound emotional safety because it allows people to be seen and understood for who they actually are rather than who you might want them to be. When she shares her thoughts on topics you disagree with, curious compassion means asking thoughtful questions to understand her perspective better rather than immediately arguing or dismissing her viewpoint. When she describes experiences that are different from yours, it means being genuinely interested in learning about her world rather than comparing it to your own or minimizing its importance. This doesn't mean agreeing with everything she says or abandoning your own perspectives. It means creating space for genuine dialogue where both viewpoints can be explored and understood, even if they remain different. This kind of intellectual and emotional generosity is rare and deeply attractive to women who value authentic connection over superficial agreement. The practical application of curious compassion transforms ordinary conversations into opportunities for real intimacy. Instead of surface-level exchanges about work, weather, and current events, you begin having conversations about values, dreams, fears, and the experiences that have shaped each of you into who you are today. These deeper conversations are where real attraction develops. Surface-level chemistry might create initial interest, but emotional intimacy creates lasting bonds. When someone feels truly seen and understood by you, their investment in the relationship deepens naturally and organically. The fifth element of emotional safety is perhaps the most subtle, what Seneca called non-possessive appreciation. This means genuinely enjoying and valuing someone's presence in your life without needing to control or own them. It's the difference between loving someone and being attached to them, between appreciating their qualities and feeling entitled to their attention. When she shows interest in you, non-possessive appreciation means being grateful for her attention while recognizing that it's a gift she chooses to give, not something you're owed or entitled to. When she spends time with you, it means enjoying those moments fully without immediately worrying about when the next ones will occur or trying to lock down future commitments. This quality is profoundly attractive because it allows the other person to choose you freely rather than feeling trapped or pressured. When someone knows they can walk away without drama, manipulation, or punishment, they often find themselves wanting to stay. When they feel their freedom is respected, they often choose to share more of themselves voluntarily. Non-possessive appreciation also means celebrating her successes, supporting her goals, and encouraging her growth, even when those things don't directly benefit you. It means wanting her to be happy and fulfilled as a complete person, not just happy in relation to you. This might seem counterintuitive from a romantic strategy perspective, but it's actually the foundation of healthy long-term relationships. People want to be with partners who genuinely want the best for them, not partners who see them primarily as sources of personal satisfaction or validation. The cumulative effect of these 5 elements, predictable integrity, emotional regulation in service of others, principled boundaries, curious compassion, and non-possessive appreciation, creates what psychologists call a secure relational base. This is an emotional environment where authentic intimacy can develop naturally because both people feel safe enough to be genuinely themselves. When you create this kind of emotional safety, several things happen naturally. First, her interest in you likely deepens because she feels increasingly comfortable being authentic in your presence. Second, you get to know who she really is, rather than just the version of herself she thinks you want to see. Third, you both begin operating from your best selves rather than from fear, insecurity, or the need to impress. This is why the Stoic approach to relationships focuses so heavily on character development. When you possess genuine virtue, you naturally create the conditions where healthy relationships can flourish. You don't need to manufacture emotional safety through techniques or strategies because it emerges organically from your way of being in the world. The woman who has been showing interest in you is responding not just to specific things you've said or done, but to the overall quality of presence you bring to interactions. Her willingness to be vulnerable in your presence, to seek your proximity, and to invest energy in connecting with you suggests that she's already sensing the emotional safety you naturally provide. The question now becomes whether you can continue nurturing this safety while also honoring your own authentic feelings and desires. Because ultimately, emotional safety isn't about becoming a perfect, unthreatening presence who never challenges or disappoints anyone. It's about being someone who can be relied upon to meet others' humanity with your own, even when that humanity is complex, imperfect, and sometimes difficult. In our next section, we'll explore how to navigate the transition from recognizing mutual interest to exploring the possibility of deeper connection. The transition from recognizing mutual interest to exploring deeper connection represents one of the most delicate phases in human relationships. It's here that many promising connections falter, not because the initial attraction wasn't genuine, but because one or both people lack the wisdom to navigate this subtle passage with grace and authenticity. The Stoics understood that this transition requires what Marcus Aurelius called patient courage, the strength to move forward with genuine intention while accepting that the outcome remains beyond your complete control. Think about where you are now with this woman who has been showing such clear signs of interest. You've recognized her signals, you've responded with appropriate appreciation and reciprocal attention, and you've begun creating the emotional safety that allows authentic connection to flourish. But at some point, if this is to develop into something meaningful, someone must acknowledge what's happening between you and suggest exploring it more intentionally. The Stoic approach to this transition is guided by several key principles. First, timing matters, but not in the way most people think. The right timing isn't about waiting for perfect circumstances or ideal moments, but about acting when your intentions are clear and your motivations are aligned with virtue. This means moving forward when you're genuinely interested in exploring connection with her as a complete person, not when you're lonely, bored, or seeking validation. Seneca wrote extensively about the importance of acting from authentic motivation rather than reactive impulses. When you decide to explore deeper connection, that decision should emerge from genuine appreciation for who she is and curiosity about what might develop between you, not from fear that you might miss an opportunity or social pressure to escalate the relationship because others expect it. The second principle involves what Epictetus called outcome independence, the ability to take appropriate action while remaining emotionally unattached to specific results. This doesn't mean not caring about the outcome, but rather caring more about acting with integrity and wisdom than about achieving particular results. In practical terms, this means being willing to express your interest and suggest deeper exploration while genuinely accepting that she might not be ready, available, or interested in the same direction. It means making your invitation from a position of strength and completeness rather than neediness or desperation for her validation. This emotional stance is crucial because it affects not just how you make your approach, but how she receives it. When someone can sense that you're attached to a specific response, it creates pressure that often makes them want to pull back, even if they're genuinely interested. When they sense that you're making a genuine offer while remaining emotionally stable regardless of their response, it creates the safety to consider your invitation honestly. The third principle involves clarity without pressure. The Stoics valued direct communication and honest expression of intentions, but they also understood that wisdom lies in how you express truth, not just in expressing it. When the time comes to acknowledge what's been developing between you, your communication should be clear enough to leave no doubt about your interest while being gentle enough to preserve her autonomy and the existing connection if she needs more time or isn't ready. This might sound like something as simple as, "I've really been enjoying getting to know you, and I find myself increasingly interested in exploring what might develop between us. Would you be interested in spending some intentional time together, just the two of us, to see how we feel about each other outside of our usual context?" Notice several elements in this approach. It acknowledges the existing connection rather than starting from zero. It expresses genuine interest without being overly dramatic or intense. It suggests a specific next step without demanding an immediate commitment to a relationship. And it frames the exploration as something you do together rather than something you're asking her to decide about unilaterally. The fourth principle recognizes that this conversation itself is part of the deeper exploration. How you both handle this transition reveals important information about your compatibility and your respective approaches to relationship development. Someone who becomes evasive, manipulative, or dramatic when authentic interest is expressed might not be ready for the kind of mature connection you're seeking. Similarly, if you find yourself becoming anxious, controlling, or resentful during this process, it might indicate that you need to do more work on your own emotional stability before pursuing serious relationships. The Stoics believed that we're always revealing our character through our actions, and nowhere is this more true than in how we handle vulnerable moments in relationships. The fifth principle involves respecting the natural rhythm of relationship development. Even when someone is interested in exploring deeper connection, they might need time to process the transition from whatever your previous dynamic was to something more intentionally romantic. This is particularly true if you've known each other in professional or social contexts where romantic involvement would represent a significant shift. Wisdom means giving this process the time and space it needs while remaining consistently yourself throughout. It means not withdrawing or becoming cold if her response isn't immediately enthusiastic, and not pressuring for rapid escalation if she needs time to adjust to the new dynamic. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the virtue of persistence balanced with acceptance, noting that the wise person continues moving toward their goals, while accepting that the timeline and specific outcomes remain beyond their control. This principle applies beautifully to relationship development. where genuine connection often requires patience and trust in natural timing. The practical application of these principles creates what we might call graceful progression, movement toward deeper connection that feels natural and organic rather than forced or strategic. This progression honors both people's autonomy while acknowledging the genuine attraction and compatibility that has been developing. One common mistake men make during this transition is becoming overly focused on making their move or sealing the deal, as if the relationship were a business transaction rather than a human connection. This mindset creates pressure and urgency that often disrupts the natural flow of deepening intimacy. The Stoic alternative is to think of this transition as an invitation to mutual exploration rather than a conquest or achievement. You're not trying to get her to accept your romantic interest. You're offering to explore together what kind of connection might be possible between you as complete human beings. This shift in perspective changes everything about how you approach the conversation and the subsequent development of the relationship. Instead of trying to convince her of your worthiness or persuade her to take a chance on you, you're simply acknowledging what's been happening between you and suggesting that you both explore it more intentionally. The beauty of this approach is that it serves everyone involved. If she's genuinely interested, it provides a comfortable framework for moving forward without pressure or artificial timelines. If she's not ready or not interested, it allows her to decline gracefully without having to reject you as a person or damage the existing positive connection between you. It also serves you by keeping you grounded in your own worth and emotional stability throughout the process. You're not putting yourself in the position of being evaluated or judged, but rather making a genuine offer for mutual exploration from a position of strength and completeness. The timing of this conversation often emerges naturally from the quality of your ongoing interactions. When you notice that your conversations have become more personal, when the emotional safety between you has deepened, when you find yourselves spending more time together or seeking each other out more frequently, these are signs that acknowledging the developing connection might be appropriate. But remember, timing is less important than the quality of your intention and the wisdom of your approach. A conversation initiated with genuine care, clear communication, and respect for her autonomy will be well received regardless of whether the timing is absolutely perfect. The Stoics also understood that rejection, if it occurs, is information rather than judgment. If she's not ready or not interested in exploring romantic connection, this doesn't reflect your worth as a person any more than her interest would validate your worth. It simply means that this particular connection isn't aligned for romantic development at this time, which is valuable information that allows you both to make clear decisions about how to proceed. This understanding helps you approach the conversation with genuine confidence rather than defensive anxiety. You're not asking her to validate your attractiveness or worth. You're offering to explore together whether the connection you both feel might develop into something deeper and more intentional. The woman who has been showing such consistent signs of interest in you has likely been wondering when and how this conversation might happen. Her investment in remembering your words, seeking your proximity, and elevating her presence around you suggests someone who is already emotionally engaged with you to some degree. This doesn't guarantee that she's ready for romantic exploration. People can feel connection without being prepared to act on it due to timing, other commitments, or personal circumstances. But it does suggest that a thoughtful, respectful conversation about what's been developing between you would likely be welcomed rather than unwelcome, regardless of her specific response. In our next section, we'll explore how to maintain authenticity and emotional balance throughout whatever develops from this conversation. Once you've opened the door to exploring deeper connection, the real test of character begins. This is where the Stoic virtues you've been cultivating prove their worth, not in the initial conversation about mutual interest, but in the sustained practice of authenticity and emotional balance as the relationship unfolds. The ancient philosophers understood that anyone can maintain virtue during brief encounters, but true character reveals itself in how we navigate the ongoing complexities of human intimacy. Maintaining authenticity throughout relationship development requires what Seneca called unwavering self-knowledge, the ability to remain connected to your own values, feelings, and boundaries, even as you navigate the natural desire to please someone you're attracted to. This is more challenging than it might initially appear, because the early stages of romantic connection often create powerful incentives to present idealized versions of ourselves rather than our genuine, complex humanity. Consider the woman who has been showing such consistent interest in you. Now that you've acknowledged the mutual attraction and begun exploring it more intentionally, she'll naturally be paying even closer attention to who you are and how you handle yourself. This increased scrutiny can create pressure to perform rather than simply be, to showcase your best qualities while hiding anything that might seem less impressive. The Stoic response to this pressure is counterintuitive but profoundly wise. Deepen your commitment to authenticity rather than increasing your performance efforts. This means continuing to be genuinely yourself, including the parts of yourself that are still developing, occasionally uncertain or imperfect. It means sharing your real thoughts, feelings, and experiences rather than carefully curated versions designed to maintain her interest. This doesn't mean overwhelming her with your insecurities or using authenticity as an excuse for poor behavior. Rather, it means being the same fundamentally decent person you've been throughout your interactions, while allowing her to see more of who you are beneath the surface. When you disagree with something she says, express your perspective respectfully rather than pretending to agree. When you don't know something she's knowledgeable about, admit your ignorance and express genuine interest in learning. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the freedom that comes from not having to maintain false personas, noting that authenticity requires courage but provides profound peace, because you no longer need to remember what version of yourself you've presented to whom. This principle becomes crucial in romantic relationships, where the temptation to present idealized versions of ourselves is strongest. The practical application of sustained authenticity might look like continuing to pursue your own interests and maintain your other relationships even as you explore this new connection. It means not abandoning your exercise routine, your hobbies, or your friendships because you want to spend every available moment with her. It means continuing to make decisions based on your own judgment and values rather than constantly considering what she might prefer. This balanced approach actually increases rather than decreases attraction because it demonstrates the kind of personal stability that makes long-term partnership appealing. When someone sees that you have a full, interesting life that you're inviting them to share rather than expecting them to complete, they're more likely to want to be part of that life. Emotional balance during relationship development requires what Epictetus called equanimity in uncertainty, the ability to remain emotionally stable while navigating the inherent unpredictability of human connection. Even when mutual interest has been acknowledged and exploration has begun, there will be moments of doubt, misunderstanding, and natural fluctuation in emotional intensity. She might have days when she seems less engaged, not because her interest has diminished, but because she's processing other aspects of her life or simply experiencing natural variations in mood and energy. Your ability to remain emotionally stable during these fluctuations, neither becoming anxious about her decreased attention nor demanding reassurance about her continued interest, demonstrates the kind of maturity that makes healthy relationships possible. This emotional balance also means maintaining perspective about the pace and development of the relationship. While it's natural to feel excited about new romantic possibilities, Wisdom lies in allowing the connection to develop at its own natural rhythm rather than trying to accelerate it toward greater intimacy or commitment. The Stoics understood that the most meaningful human connections develop through gradual deepening rather than dramatic leaps. Trust builds through consistent small actions over time. Emotional intimacy develops through countless ordinary moments where you both show up authentically. Physical and romantic intimacy feels most natural and satisfying when it emerges from established emotional connection and mutual trust. This means being patient with the process while remaining actively engaged in it. It means enjoying each phase of development for what it offers rather than constantly anticipating the next stage. It means appreciating the unique pleasure of getting to know someone gradually, discovering their thoughts, values, and character through extended observation and conversation. The challenge many men face during this phase is managing their own expectations and emotional investment. As the connection deepens and becomes more meaningful, it's natural to begin imagining future possibilities and hoping for specific outcomes. The Stoic approach acknowledges these feelings while maintaining what Marcus Aurelius called detached engagement. Full participation in the relationship's development combined with acceptance that its ultimate direction remains beyond complete control. This balance prevents two common relationship mistakes: becoming so invested in specific outcomes that you lose sight of present realities, or becoming so afraid of disappointment that you hold back from genuine engagement. Neither extreme serves the relationship or your own well-being. Detached engagement means continuing to invest your time, attention, and emotional energy in exploring the connection while holding your expectations lightly. It means being genuinely interested in where things might lead, while accepting that you can't control whether she ultimately wants the same kind of relationship you do, whether external circumstances support the relationship's development, or whether you both continue growing in compatible directions. This stance requires considerable emotional maturity, but it's what allows relationships to develop in the healthiest possible way. When both people feel free to explore connection without the pressure of predetermined outcomes, they can make authentic decisions about compatibility and long-term potential. The practical aspects of maintaining emotional balance involve managing your own internal dialogue about the relationship. Notice when your thoughts become obsessive or anxious about her level of interest, the relationship's future, or potential problems that haven't occurred. When you catch yourself in these mental patterns, gently redirect your attention to the present moment and to the aspects of the situation that you can actually influence. Focus on being the best version of yourself in her presence and in your life generally. Pay attention to how you feel when you're together and whether the connection brings out positive qualities in both of you. Notice whether your values and life goals seem compatible, whether you enjoy each other's company during ordinary moments as well as special ones, and whether you both seem to be growing and improving through the connection. These present moment observations are far more valuable than speculation about future possibilities or anxiety about potential problems. They ground you in reality while helping you make wise decisions about how much energy to invest in the relationship's development. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of maintaining your own personal growth throughout relationship development. The qualities that made you attractive initially, your commitment to virtue, your interesting pursuits, your emotional stability, require ongoing cultivation rather than maintenance on autopilot. Continue reading, learning, exercising, pursuing your goals, and developing your character. Continue being someone who has something valuable to offer in relationships because you're actively working on becoming the best version of yourself. This ongoing personal development ensures that you bring fresh energy and perspectives to the relationship rather than becoming stagnant or taking the connection for granted. This commitment to continued growth also demonstrates to her that you see the relationship as one important part of a full life, rather than as the sole source of meaning and satisfaction. This is attractive because it suggests that you're choosing to be with her from a position of abundance rather than need, and that you'll continue being an interesting, evolving person regardless of how the relationship develops. The woman who has been showing such consistent interest in you is likely hoping to see these very qualities as your connection deepens. Her initial attraction was probably based partly on sensing your potential for the kind of mature, stable partnership that emotionally healthy women seek. Your ability to maintain authenticity and emotional balance as the relationship develops will either confirm or challenge her initial assessment. If you can continue being genuinely yourself while navigating the complexities of deepening connection, if you can remain emotionally stable without becoming complacent, if you can stay engaged without becoming obsessive, you'll be demonstrating the kind of character that makes lasting relationships possible. This doesn't guarantee any particular outcome. Compatibility involves many factors beyond individual character, but it ensures that whatever develops will be based on genuine connection between authentic people rather than on performance, manipulation, or unmet psychological needs. In our next section, we'll explore how to recognize and respond to the deeper signs of genuine compatibility that emerge as relationships develop beyond initial attraction. As your connection deepens beyond initial attraction, new and more significant signs of compatibility begin to emerge. These indicators go far beyond the surface-level signals of interest we discussed earlier, revealing whether you and this woman possess the fundamental alignment necessary for a meaningful, lasting relationship. The Stoics understood that true compatibility isn't about sharing identical interests or perspectives, but about complementary character traits and aligned values that create the foundation for mutual growth and genuine partnership. The first sign of deeper compatibility reveals itself in how you both handle disagreement and conflict. Every relationship, no matter how harmonious, will encounter moments of genuine difference in opinion, preference, or approach. The way you navigate these moments together provides crucial information about your long-term potential as partners. Notice what happens when you express a viewpoint she doesn't share, or when she brings up something you disagree with. Does the conversation become an opportunity for mutual understanding and respectful exploration of different perspectives? Or does it devolve into defensive arguments, attempts to convince each other, or uncomfortable silence where one person withdraws to avoid conflict? Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the virtue of engaging with opposing viewpoints, not to defeat them, but to understand the reasoning behind them and to test the strength of your own positions. In relationships, this translates to the ability to maintain respect and affection for someone even when their perspective differs significantly from yours. When you and this woman can disagree while remaining curious about each other's reasoning, when you can express different preferences without making it personal, when you can even debate passionate topics while maintaining underlying care and respect, you're witnessing compatibility at a fundamental level. This suggests that you both possess the emotional maturity and intellectual humility necessary for the kind of partnership where both people continue growing throughout their lives together. The second deeper sign appears in how you both relate to each other's growth and ambitions. Genuine compatibility means genuinely wanting your partner to flourish and reach their full potential, even when that growth might be challenging or inconvenient for the relationship itself. Observe how she responds when you share your goals, dreams, or areas where you're working to improve yourself. Does she express genuine enthusiasm and support? Does she ask thoughtful questions that show she's really listening and thinking about what matters to you? Does she offer encouragement when you face setbacks or celebrate with authentic joy when you make progress? Equally important, notice your own responses when she shares her aspirations and challenges. Do you find yourself genuinely invested in her success and well-being? Are you excited about the person she's becoming, or do you find yourself uncomfortable with changes that might affect your dynamic together? Seneca wrote about the profound satisfaction that comes from being in relationships where mutual growth is celebrated rather than feared. He observed that the healthiest partnerships are those where both people become more fully themselves through the connection, rather than diminishing parts of themselves to maintain harmony. This sign of compatibility often reveals itself in subtle ways. She might express excitement about a professional opportunity, even though it would mean less time together initially. You might find yourself researching topics she's passionate about because you want to understand and support her interests. These behaviors indicate that you both see the relationship as a context for mutual flourishing rather than mutual limitation. The third sign involves how you both handle vulnerability and emotional depth. As relationships progress beyond initial attraction, moments arise that require genuine emotional courage, sharing fears, admitting mistakes, revealing insecurities, or expressing needs that feel risky to voice. True compatibility means that both people can be emotionally authentic without fear of judgment, dismissal, or having their vulnerability used against them later. It means creating and maintaining the kind of emotional safety where real intimacy can develop naturally. Pay attention to what happens when either of you shares something that requires courage to reveal. Does the other person receive it with appropriate seriousness and care? Do you both find yourselves naturally sharing more of your inner worlds as trust builds? Or do vulnerable moments create awkwardness, defensiveness, or pressure to return quickly to safer topics? Epictetus taught that we reveal our true character not in moments of strength and confidence, but in moments of uncertainty and vulnerability. How you and this woman treat each other's emotional courage provides profound insight into your compatibility as long-term partners. The fourth sign appears in your natural rhythms and energy patterns together. Some people bring out each other's best selves naturally and effortlessly, while others require constant work to maintain harmony. True compatibility often reveals itself in how much energy the relationship requires versus how much energy it provides. Notice how you feel after spending extended time together. Are you energized and inspired, or do you feel drained and emotionally depleted? Do conversations flow naturally, or do you find yourself working hard to keep interactions pleasant and engaging? When you're together in ordinary circumstances, running errands, dealing with mundane tasks, or simply existing in the same space, does it feel comfortable and natural? Or does it require conscious effort to avoid friction? The Stoics believed that virtuous relationships should enhance rather than diminish the people involved. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the joy of being around people who inspire you to be better simply through their presence and example. This principle applies beautifully to romantic compatibility. The right partner makes virtue easier rather than harder to practice. This doesn't mean that good relationships require no effort or that compatible partners never annoy each other. It means that the effort feels worthwhile and sustainable, and that the fundamental dynamic between you enhances rather than threatens your individual well-being and growth. The fifth sign involves shared values around the fundamental aspects of human life: work, money, family, personal growth, community involvement, and life priorities. You don't need to have identical approaches to all of these areas, but you need to have values that complement, rather than conflict with each other. As your connection deepens, pay attention to the values that reveal themselves through her choices and priorities. How does she treat service workers, family members, friends who are struggling? What does she do with her free time and resources? How does she handle stress, disappointment, and unexpected challenges? What brings her genuine joy and satisfaction? These observations matter more than direct conversations about values, though those are important too. People can talk about valuing kindness, integrity, or personal growth, but their actual choices reveal their true priorities and character. Seneca wrote extensively about the importance of aligning yourself with people whose character you admire, noting that we naturally become more like those we spend significant time with. In romantic relationships, this principle becomes crucial. You want to choose someone whose influence in your life will be positive and inspiring over many years. The sixth, deeper sign appears in how you both navigate the balance between togetherness and independence. Healthy relationships require people who are complete individuals choosing to share their lives, rather than incomplete people seeking someone else to provide what they lack within themselves. Notice whether the developing relationship enhances your individual identity or threatens it. Can you maintain your friendships, interests, and personal goals while deepening this connection? Does she encourage your independence and individual growth, or does increasing intimacy come with pressure to abandon other aspects of your life? Equally important, observe whether she maintains her own sense of self as the relationship develops. Does she continue pursuing her own interests and maintaining her other relationships? Or do you sense that she's beginning to define herself primarily through the connection with you? The Stoics valued what they called self-possession, the quality of being complete within yourself while remaining open to meaningful connections with others. True compatibility means both people possess this quality and respect it in each other. The seventh sign involves intellectual compatibility, not necessarily identical intelligence levels or educational backgrounds, but complementary ways of thinking and genuine mutual respect for each other's minds. This reveals itself in the quality of your conversations, your curiosity about each other's thoughts and perspectives, and your ability to learn from each other. Do you find yourself thinking more clearly and creatively when you're discussing ideas with her? Does she seem to genuinely value your insights and perspectives? Do you both ask each other thoughtful questions that reveal real interest in understanding how the other person thinks? Marcus Aurelius wrote about the pleasure of engaging with minds that challenge and inspire his own thinking. In romantic relationships, this intellectual stimulation and mutual respect creates a foundation for lifelong interest in each other. Physical attraction may fluctuate over time, but intellectual compatibility can deepen continually throughout a relationship. These deeper signs of compatibility don't all need to be perfect or immediately obvious. People and relationships develop over time, and some aspects of compatibility emerge gradually as both individuals grow and change. The key is recognizing the fundamental patterns and trajectories that suggest long-term potential versus those that indicate fundamental misalignment. The woman who has been showing such consistent interest in you is likely evaluating these same factors, consciously or unconsciously. Her continued investment in the relationship's development suggests that she's finding positive signs of compatibility as she gets to know you better. Your awareness of these deeper indicators serves not just the potential relationship with her, but your own development as someone capable of recognizing and nurturing healthy partnerships. Whether this particular connection continues to develop or not, understanding these signs of genuine compatibility will serve you throughout your life as you seek and build meaningful relationships. In our next section, we'll explore the art of building lasting attraction through consistent character and the kind of steady presence that creates deep security and genuine love. Building lasting attraction transcends the initial excitement of new romantic possibilities and enters the realm of what the Stoics considered the highest form of human connection. Relationships built on consistent character and steady presence. While initial attraction might spark from physical chemistry, shared interests, or intriguing personality traits, the attraction that sustains meaningful partnerships over years and decades comes from experiencing someone's character in action through countless ordinary moments. The ancient philosophers understood that true love isn't primarily an emotion, though emotions are certainly involved, but rather a form of recognition, the recognition of genuine virtue, reliability, and growth potential in another person. This recognition deepens over time as you witness how someone handles the full spectrum of human experience: success and failure, stress and calm, conflict and harmony, certainty and doubt. Consider what has been developing between you and this woman who has shown such consistent interest. The initial signs, her attention to your words, her desire for proximity, her elevated presence around you, created the foundation. Your wise responses and the emotional safety you've provided have allowed deeper connection to develop. Now, as you explore genuine compatibility, you're entering the phase where lasting attraction is either built or undermined based on the consistency of your character across varied circumstances. The first element of building lasting attraction through character consistency involves what Marcus Aurelius called principled reliability. The quality of being someone whose responses can be predicted because they flow from stable values rather than changing moods or circumstances. This doesn't mean being boring or predictable in personality, but rather being trustworthy in your core approach to treating others and handling life's challenges. She's observing, consciously or unconsciously, how you respond when you're tired, stressed, disappointed, or dealing with unexpected problems. Does your basic kindness and consideration remain intact even when you're having a difficult day? Do you handle criticism, setbacks, or conflicts in ways that demonstrate emotional maturity? When external pressures increase, do you become someone different, or do your fundamental values remain consistent? This consistency becomes profoundly attractive over time because it creates what psychologists call secure attachment. The deep knowing that someone will be fundamentally themselves, regardless of external circumstances. When a woman experiences this reliability repeatedly, her trust deepens, and with it, her capacity for genuine intimacy and lasting love. The practical application of principled reliability might look like maintaining your basic courtesy and consideration even during stressful conversations. It means being honest about your feelings and needs without becoming harsh or manipulative in your communication. It means keeping commitments you make, both large and small, because you understand that trust builds through countless minor demonstrations of reliability. The second element involves what Seneca called growth-oriented humility, the ability to acknowledge your mistakes, learn from feedback, and continue developing as a person without becoming defensive or stubborn. This quality becomes increasingly attractive over time because it suggests that partnership with you would involve mutual growth rather than stagnation or the need to accept unchanging limitations. Women who are emotionally mature and looking for meaningful partnership are particularly drawn to men who demonstrate the ability to reflect on their behavior, make adjustments when necessary, and continue evolving throughout their lives. This doesn't mean being constantly self-critical or changing yourself to please others, but rather being open to feedback and committed to becoming the best version of yourself. When you make a mistake in your interactions with her, and you will because all humans are imperfect, your response provides crucial information about your character. Do you become defensive and blame external circumstances? Do you minimize the impact of your error or make excuses? Or do you acknowledge what happened, express genuine regret if you've caused harm, and demonstrate through subsequent actions that you've learned something from the experience? This pattern of humble growth creates lasting attraction because it suggests that any relationship with you would be dynamic and improving rather than static or declining. It shows that you're someone who can be influenced by love and care, who values the relationship enough to adjust your behavior when it serves the connection's well-being. The third element of character-based lasting attraction is what Epictetus called generous presence. The quality of being fully engaged and mentally present when you're with someone, rather than distracted by other concerns or focused primarily on yourself. In our age of constant digital distraction and competing demands, This quality has become both rarer and more valuable. When you're spending time together, does she feel like she has your full attention and interest? Are you genuinely curious about her thoughts, experiences, and feelings? Do you ask follow-up questions that show you're really listening rather than just waiting for your turn to speak? When she shares something important to her, does she feel heard and understood? This generous presence extends beyond romantic interactions to how you treat everyone in your environment. She's observing how you interact with waiters, clerks, colleagues, friends, and strangers. Do you bring the same quality of respectful attention to all your human interactions? This consistency suggests that your treatment of her flows from genuine character rather than romantic strategy. The fourth element involves what Marcus Aurelius called supportive strength, the ability to provide emotional support and practical help when needed while encouraging independence and personal growth. This balance is crucial for lasting attraction because it demonstrates that you can be relied upon without being controlling, supportive without being paternalistic. When she faces challenges or difficulties, your response reveals important information about your character and relationship potential. Do you listen with genuine empathy and offer appropriate support? Do you respect her autonomy and ability to handle her own problems while making it clear you're available if she wants help? Can you provide emotional steadiness without trying to fix everything for her? This supportive strength also means celebrating her successes without feeling threatened by her achievements. When she accomplishes something important or receives recognition, your genuine happiness for her demonstrates the kind of character that makes long-term partnership appealing. Many relationships fail because one or both people can't handle their partner's success. But lasting attraction develops when both people actively support each other's flourishing. The fifth element of building lasting attraction through character involves what Seneca called joyful engagement, the ability to find genuine pleasure and interest in ordinary life and to share that positive energy with others. This doesn't mean being artificially upbeat or avoiding serious topics, but rather bringing a fundamental enthusiasm for life that makes time spent together feel enriching rather than draining. Do you approach experiences together with curiosity and openness? Can you find humor and lightness even in mundane activities? When problems arise, do you maintain perspective and avoid becoming overwhelmed by temporary difficulties? This quality of joyful engagement makes someone attractive for long-term partnership because it suggests that life together would be fundamentally positive and enriching. The woman who has been showing such interest in you is likely evaluating whether spending significant time with you enhances or diminishes her own life experience. If your presence consistently brings more joy, peace, and positive energy into her world, her attraction will naturally deepen over time. The sixth element involves what the Stoics called dignified vulnerability, the courage to be genuinely yourself, including your uncertainties and imperfections, without becoming overly dramatic or seeking excessive reassurance. This balance creates deep attraction because it demonstrates both strength and humanity. As your connection develops, you'll have opportunities to share more of your inner world. Your fears, dreams, past experiences, and areas where you're still growing. How you handle these moments of vulnerability reveals crucial information about your emotional maturity and relationship potential. Dignified vulnerability means being honest about your feelings and experiences without making her responsible for managing your emotions. It means sharing your struggles without becoming a burden, expressing your needs without becoming demanding, and showing your humanity without losing your strength. This quality becomes increasingly attractive over time because it creates the foundation for genuine intimacy. When someone can be authentically themselves without drama or excessive neediness, it makes others feel safe to be vulnerable as well. This mutual vulnerability, grounded in strength rather than weakness, is what transforms initial attraction into lasting love. The seventh element of character-based lasting attraction is what Marcus Aurelius called purposeful living, having clear values, meaningful goals, and a sense of direction in your life that extends beyond the relationship itself. This quality is attractive because it suggests that choosing you would mean joining a life that's already interesting and meaningful, rather than trying to create meaning solely through romantic connection. She's observing whether you have genuine passion for your work, interests, or contributions to the world. Do you have goals that inspire you and values that guide your decisions? Are you someone who would continue growing and pursuing meaningful activities, whether you're in a relationship or not? This purposeful living creates lasting attraction because it ensures that you'll continue being interesting and inspiring throughout a long-term relationship. It also suggests that you're choosing her from a position of fullness rather than emptiness, which makes the choice more meaningful and secure. The cumulative effect of these character qualities, principled reliability, growth-oriented humility, generous presence, supportive strength, joyful engagement, dignified vulnerability, and purposeful living, creates what we might call attractive character that deepens over time rather than fading. The woman who has been showing such consistent interest in you is likely sensing these qualities in you already, which explains her continued investment in exploring the connection. Your challenge now is to continue developing and demonstrating these character traits consistently, not as a strategy to maintain her interest, but as a commitment to becoming the kind of person worthy of the deep love and partnership you seek. In our final section, we'll explore how to integrate all these insights into a coherent approach to relationships that honors both Stoic wisdom and the complex realities of modern romantic connection. The integration of Stoic wisdom into modern romantic relationships represents a profound shift from the typical approaches that dominate contemporary dating culture. Rather than focusing on techniques, strategies, or methods to attract and maintain someone's interest, the Stoic approach grounds itself in the fundamental truth that healthy relationships naturally emerge when two people of genuine character encounter each other and choose to explore their compatibility with wisdom, patience, and authentic care. This philosophical foundation transforms every aspect of how you approach relationships, from the initial recognition of mutual interest through the development of deep, lasting partnership. Instead of viewing romantic connection as a game to be won or a problem to be solved, you begin to see it as an opportunity for mutual growth, genuine intimacy, and the kind of meaningful human connection that the ancient philosophers considered essential for human flourishing. The woman who has been showing such clear signs of interest in you represents an opportunity to practice this integrated approach. Everything you've learned, recognizing her subtle signals, responding with appropriate wisdom, creating emotional safety, exploring compatibility, and building lasting attraction through consistent character, comes together in a coherent philosophy of relationship that serves both of you regardless of the specific outcome. This integration begins with what Marcus Aurelius called philosophical consistency, the alignment of your beliefs, values, and actions across all areas of life. You cannot compartmentalize virtue, practicing it in some contexts while abandoning it in others. The same principles that guide your approach to work, friendship, and personal development must also guide your approach to romantic relationships. This means bringing the same commitment to honesty, integrity, patience, and wisdom that you would bring to any other important endeavor in your life. It means treating her with the same respect and consideration you would want to receive. It means making decisions based on virtue rather than short-term emotional impulses or social pressures. The practical application of philosophical consistency transforms common relationship challenges into opportunities for character development. When miscommunications arise, instead of becoming defensive or withdrawing, you respond with the kind of curious compassion that seeks understanding. When external pressures threaten the relationship's development, you remain grounded in your own values rather than being swayed by others' opinions or expectations. The second aspect of integration involves what Seneca called temporal wisdom, the ability to hold appropriate perspectives about time, timing, and the natural development of human connections. Modern dating culture often creates artificial urgency, pressure to define relationships quickly, or anxiety about missing opportunities if connections don't develop according to predetermined timelines. The Stoic approach recognizes that meaningful relationships unfold according to their own natural rhythm, which cannot be forced or manipulated without creating unhealthy dynamics. Some connections develop quickly, while others require extended time to reach their full potential. Some relationships serve their purpose within limited timeframes, while others continue growing throughout decades. Your integration of Stoic wisdom means releasing attachment to specific timelines or outcomes while remaining fully engaged in the present moment of whatever is developing between you. This doesn't mean being passive or indifferent, but rather being actively patient, continuing to invest energy and attention in the connection's development while trusting its natural unfolding. This temporal wisdom helps you avoid the common mistakes of either rushing toward greater intimacy before sufficient trust has developed, or holding back from appropriate vulnerability because you're afraid of future disappointment. Instead, you remain present to what's actually happening between you right now, responding to current realities rather than projected fears or fantasies. The third aspect involves what Epictetus called relational sovereignty, maintaining your own sense of self, values, and life direction while genuinely opening yourself to influence and connection with another person. This balance is crucial because healthy relationships require people who are complete individuals choosing to share their lives, not incomplete people seeking someone else to provide what they lack. In your developing connection with this woman, relational sovereignty means continuing to pursue your own growth, maintain your friendships, and engage in activities that bring you fulfillment, while also making space for the relationship to influence and enhance your life. It means being genuinely interested in her perspectives and allowing them to challenge and expand your thinking, without losing your own center or abandoning your fundamental values. This quality is particularly attractive to emotionally mature women because it suggests that choosing you would mean joining someone who has a full, interesting life rather than someone who needs a relationship to feel complete. It also ensures that any relationship that develops will be based on genuine choice rather than psychological dependency. The fourth aspect of integration addresses what the Stoics called outcome independence, the ability to act with virtue and wisdom while remaining emotionally unattached to specific results. This principle becomes crucial in relationships because attachment to particular outcomes often creates the very pressure and neediness that undermines healthy connection. Your integration of this wisdom means continuing to invest genuinely in exploring the connection with this woman while accepting that you cannot control whether she ultimately wants the same kind of relationship you do, whether external circumstances support the relationship's development, or whether you both continue growing in compatible directions. This acceptance paradoxically makes you more attractive because it removes the subtle pressure that comes from someone who needs the relationship to work out in a particular way. When someone senses that you're genuinely interested in them while remaining emotionally stable regardless of outcomes, it creates the safety for them to explore their own feelings honestly without feeling responsible for your emotional well-being. The fifth aspect involves what Marcus Aurelius called virtuous persistence, the commitment to continue practicing virtue and pursuing meaningful connection even when faced with setbacks, misunderstandings, or temporary disappointments. This doesn't mean persisting in any particular relationship that clearly isn't working, but rather persisting in your commitment to approaching all relationships with wisdom and authenticity. If your exploration with this woman reveals incompatibilities that make romantic partnership unwise, virtuous persistence means handling that discovery with grace and maintaining respect for both her and yourself. If external circumstances create challenges for the relationship's development, it means navigating those challenges with patience and creativity rather than abandoning ship at the first sign of difficulty. This persistence is grounded not in attachment to specific outcomes, but in commitment to living according to your highest values regardless of circumstances. It demonstrates the kind of character that makes long-term partnership possible because it suggests you would continue growing and choosing virtue even during difficult periods. The sixth aspect addresses what Seneca called integrated wisdom, the ability to apply philosophical principles consistently across the various dimensions of human experience. Your approach to this relationship should be consistent with your approach to friendship, professional relationships, family dynamics, and community involvement. This integration means that the kindness, honesty, patience, and respect you show in romantic contexts flow from the same character foundation that guides all your interactions. It means that your commitment to personal growth, your ability to handle conflict constructively, and your capacity for genuine intimacy are not techniques you employ strategically, but natural expressions of who you are as a person. The woman who has been showing interest in you is likely sensing this integrated quality, which explains her continued investment in exploring connection with you. When someone encounters authentic virtue rather than strategic behavior, they naturally feel more safe and attracted because they're interacting with genuine character rather than performance. The seventh aspect of integration involves what the Stoics called contributory love, the understanding that the highest form of human connection involves both people contributing to each other's flourishing and, through their partnership, contributing positively to their broader community and the world. This perspective transforms relationships from merely personal satisfaction or emotional fulfillment into opportunities for mutual service and positive impact. When you approach relationships with this understanding, you naturally seek partners who share similar values about growth, contribution, and the responsible use of your combined energy and resources. As your connection with this woman continues developing, you might begin noticing whether your influence on each other tends toward mutual elevation or mutual limitation. Do you inspire each other toward greater wisdom, kindness, and positive impact? Do your conversations and shared activities contribute something positive to the world around you? Do you both seem to become better people through the connection? These questions aren't about finding someone perfect, but about finding someone whose growth trajectory and fundamental values align with your own in ways that create possibilities for meaningful partnership and positive contribution to the world. The integration of all these aspects creates what we might call Stoic relationship mastery, the ability to approach romantic connections with wisdom, virtue, and authentic presence while remaining unattached to specific outcomes. This mastery serves you not only in your current situation, but throughout your life as you continue encountering opportunities for meaningful human connection. The woman who has shown such consistent interest in you has provided an opportunity to practice and refine this integrated approach. Regardless of how your specific connection develops, the wisdom you've gained and the character you've strengthened through this experience will serve every future relationship and contribute to your overall human flourishing. The ancient philosophers understood that we are fundamentally social beings who reach our highest potential through meaningful relationships with others. The principles we've explored, recognizing genuine interest, responding with wisdom, creating emotional safety, exploring compatibility, and building lasting attraction through character represent a comprehensive approach to one of the most important aspects of human life. Your commitment to practicing these principles with consistency and authenticity not only serves your own growth and happiness, but contributes to the broader human project of creating more wisdom, love, and genuine connection in the world. This is perhaps the deepest integration of Stoic wisdom into modern relationships. Understanding that your approach to love and partnership is both deeply personal and profoundly universal, serving not only your own flourishing, but the flourishing of all those whose lives you touch. The ultimate test of everything we've explored comes not in grand moments of declaration or dramatic relationship milestones, but in the quiet consistency of daily choices that reveal who you truly are when no one is watching or evaluating your performance. The Stoics understood that character isn't demonstrated through exceptional circumstances alone, but through the accumulated weight of countless ordinary moments where you choose virtue over convenience, wisdom over impulse, and authentic care over self-serving strategy. As you continue navigating whatever develops with this woman who has shown such genuine interest in you, remember that every interaction is simultaneously an opportunity for personal growth and a contribution to the quality of human connection in the world. The way you handle her emotions, respond to her needs, and navigate the inevitable challenges that arise in any meaningful relationship becomes part of your practice in the art of living well. Consider how profoundly different this approach is from the typical relationship advice that dominates popular culture. Instead of focusing on what you can get from relationships or how to maintain someone's interest through technique and strategy, the Stoic approach focuses on who you can become through relationships and how to contribute to another person's flourishing while honoring your own growth and authenticity. This shift in perspective transforms every aspect of romantic connection. When she remembers something important you mentioned weeks ago, instead of simply feeling flattered, you recognize it as an opportunity to practice gratitude and reciprocal attention. When she seeks your physical proximity, instead of interpreting it as a signal to escalate, you appreciate it as a gift of trust and respond with worthy presence. When other women show interest and she elevates her engagement in response, instead of exploiting the dynamic, you use it as an opportunity to demonstrate the consistent character that makes you worth competing for. The depth of wisdom required for this approach cannot be overstated. It demands that you develop genuine self-knowledge, emotional regulation, the ability to delay gratification, and the courage to remain authentic, even when it might be easier to perform or manipulate. These are not skills you can master quickly or practice occasionally. They require the kind of daily commitment to virtue that the ancient philosophers considered essential for human flourishing. But here's what makes this approach ultimately more practical than any dating strategy or relationship technique. It actually works, not just for achieving romantic success, but for creating the kind of life and relationships that provide lasting satisfaction and meaning. When you become someone who naturally creates emotional safety, responds to others' interest with wisdom, and builds connections based on genuine character, you attract not just romantic partners, but friends, colleagues, and community members who appreciate authenticity and virtue. The woman whose interests spark this entire exploration represents something much larger than a single romantic opportunity. She represents the possibility of meaningful human connection based on mutual recognition of character rather than superficial attraction or temporary chemistry. Whether your specific connection with her develops into long-term partnership or evolves into something different, the principles you've practiced and the character you've strengthened will serve every future relationship. This is perhaps the most profound insight from Stoic philosophy about human relationships. The work of becoming worthy of love is identical to the work of becoming a better human being. There is no separate set of romantic skills or dating techniques that exist apart from the fundamental virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. The person who develops these qualities naturally becomes attractive to others who value character, creates relationships that enhance rather than diminish everyone involved, and contributes to the broader human community through the quality of their connections. The signs you learn to recognize, her attention to your words, her desire for proximity, her mirroring of your communication style, her elevated presence in competitive situations, are actually signs that someone is responding to virtue they sense in you. Your wise responses to these signs aren't romantic strategies, but natural expressions of the character qualities that made you attractive in the first place. The emotional safety you create isn't a technique for building rapport, but the inevitable result of being someone who treats others with consistent respect and care. The compatibility you explore isn't about finding someone who complements your weaknesses, but about discovering whether two people of character can support each other's continued growth and positive impact on the world. Even the attraction you build through consistent character isn't about maintaining someone's interest, but about continuing to become the kind of person who deserves genuine love and respect. This approach serves not only your romantic relationships, but every area of your life where human connection matters. The integration of these principles into daily life requires what Marcus Aurelius called philosophical vigilance, the constant awareness that every moment presents opportunities to practice virtue or abandon it, to contribute to human flourishing or detract from it. This vigilance isn't anxious self-monitoring, but rather the peaceful awareness that comes from knowing your values and consistently choosing to live according to them. In your ongoing interactions with this woman, this vigilance manifests as continued commitment to authenticity, emotional presence, and genuine care for her well-being as a complete person. It means continuing to grow as an individual while remaining open to the mutual influence that healthy relationships require. It means maintaining your own boundaries and values while supporting her autonomy and growth. Most importantly, it means understanding that the quality of your relationship, whatever form it ultimately takes, reflects the quality of the people involved. You cannot create a healthy relationship with someone who lacks character, and someone of genuine character cannot create a healthy relationship with you if you abandon virtue for the sake of temporary advantage or convenience. This understanding provides profound freedom because it removes the pressure to be perfect or to control outcomes you cannot actually control. Your responsibility is to continue developing your own character and to respond to others' character with appropriate wisdom. The outcomes, whether this woman becomes a life partner, a good friend, or simply a positive connection that serves both of you for a particular period, depend on factors beyond your control, including her own choices, external circumstances, and the complex dynamics of compatibility that no amount of effort can manufacture if they don't exist naturally. The peace that comes from this understanding allows you to engage fully in relationships without the anxiety that typically accompanies romantic uncertainty. You can invest genuinely in exploring connections while remaining emotionally stable regardless of specific outcomes. You can be vulnerable without being needy, interested without being desperate, and committed to someone's well-being without being attached to receiving particular responses from them. This is the ultimate freedom that Stoic philosophy offers in relationships, the ability to love well without being enslaved by the need for that love to be returned in specific ways or within particular time frames. It's the freedom to contribute to others' flourishing while taking responsibility for your own happiness and growth. It's the peace that comes from knowing that you are becoming the kind of person worthy of the love you seek, regardless of whether any particular relationship provides it. The woman who showed you those 5 signs of interest has served as a teacher, whether she realizes it or not. Through the opportunity to recognize her signals, respond with wisdom, create safety, explore compatibility, and demonstrate consistent character. You've had the chance to practice the art of virtuous relationship. The skills you've developed and the character you've strengthened through this practice will serve you for the rest of your life, in this relationship if it continues developing, and in every future connection you form. The ancient philosophers understood that we become what we practice. If you practice recognizing genuine interest in others, you develop the awareness that makes meaningful connections possible. If you practice responding to others with wisdom and care, you become someone who naturally creates positive relationships. If you practice emotional regulation and authentic vulnerability, you develop the maturity that makes lasting intimacy possible. This is why the Stoic approach to relationships is ultimately about much more than romance or dating success. It's about becoming fully human through the practice of virtue in one of the most challenging and rewarding areas of human experience. The connections you form, the love you give and receive, and the character you develop through relationships become part of your contribution to the larger human story of growth, connection, and mutual flourishing. Every time you choose wisdom over strategy, authenticity over performance, or genuine care over self-serving manipulation, you make the world slightly better for everyone who encounters you. This is the true meaning of attractive character. Not the ability to get what you want from others, but the ability to contribute something valuable to every person whose life touches yours. The woman who sparked this exploration will benefit from your practice of these principles, regardless of how your specific connection develops. The colleagues, friends, family members, and community members you encounter will benefit. And most importantly, you will benefit by becoming someone who lives according to his highest values and creates positive impact through the quality of his relationships. This is the legacy of Stoic wisdom in modern life. Not just personal success or individual happiness, but the creation of more wisdom, virtue, and genuine human connection in a world that desperately needs all three. Your commitment to practicing these principles in your relationships becomes part of this larger project of human flourishing. One interaction, one choice, and one moment of authentic connection at a time.